In this video, we're going to talk about shortcuts in division. Now first, we need to establish that you are experts with this division problem. Dividing by 1. 8 divided by 1 is 8. 13 divided by 1 is 13. 27 divided by 1 is 27, etc. Dividing by 1 means don't even bother. Don't even bother. 8 divided by 1 is 8. 72.134 divided by 1, it's 72.134. We are experts at dividing by 1. Why? Because you don't have to do it. There's your answer. There's your answer. Okay. So now, what if you had a problem like this? 7,500 divided by 10. We would love to be dividing by 1 instead of dividing by 10. Well, the decimals are understood to be here. You can move this decimal one place to the left. And before I go on, you can move the decimals any number of places you want, but they have to be the same in the top and the bottom. You can move the top decimal to the right 4 places, but you have to move the decimal in the denominator 4 places to the right. You can move the decimal in the denominator to the left or right 4 times, but you better do the same to the top. Now, I'm motivated to move the decimal in the bottom to the left. Why? Because now I'm dividing by 1. 1.0 is 1. Oh, you mean if I move this decimal, well, I'll have to move that decimal, and I get 750.0, which is just 750. And the rule for dividing by 1 is don't bother. Okay, you didn't have to do long division. 10 goes into 7 no times. It goes into 75 7 times. 7 times 10, subtract, bring down to 0. 10 into 50 goes 5 times. Subtract 50, get 0. Bring down to 0. 10 goes into 0, 0 times. Same answer. All I did was move the decimals one place to the left, so I would be dividing by 1. What if you have 84321 divided by 100? Well, the decimals are understood to be there. If I move this one 2 places to the left, I'm dividing by 1. So let me move this 2 places to the left, and I get 843.21 divided by 1.00, which is 1. So don't bother doing it. There's your answer. You don't have to divide by 1. It's very simple. So it's really good if I can get the bottom number to have lots of zeros and a 1. For example, if you have 725.31 and you divide this by 0.0001, well, if I move this decimal 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the right, I am now dividing by 1. But then I have to move the top decimal to the right 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4. If any one of these loops do not have a digit, like this one and this one, put 0 there. So now what you have is 725.3100 divided by 1. Oh, forget dividing by 1. There's your answer. Dividing by 1 is really simple. So our goal is to get problems that have division by 1. If you have 1, 2, 4, 3 over 25. Now, this is a division by a 2-digit number. Now the only thing you can multiply this by without changing its value is 1. And 4 over 4 is 1. Why did I pick 4 over 4? Because 25 times 4 is one of those special numbers. It has 1, 1, and all zeros. So now, instead of doing 25 into 1, 2, 4, 3, I'm going to take 12, 4, 3 and multiply it by 4. 12, 17, 9, 4. Okay, 4972. Divided by 100. But now the decimals are here, and all I have to do is move the decimal 2 places to the left, and the bottom becomes 1. So I move the top to the left 2 places. So I get 49.72 divided by 1, which I won't do. There's my answer. I want moving the decimals to the left or to the right to be effortless. So this problem was just multiplying 1, 2, 4, 3 by 4. Of course, you had to realize 25 times 4 was 100. Else you would have no motivation to write 4 over 4. But you should know 25 times 4 is 100. So I would just do this verse and then move the decimals versus doing this. Okay, this is painful. 25 into 124, it goes 4 times. Take away 100, have 24 left over. Bring this 3 down. This goes in 9 times. That's our 225. That leaves 18 left over. Bring up a decimal. Bring down the 0, 180. 25 goes into 180 7 times. That's our 175. You subtract, you're left with 5. Put another 0, bring it down, and 25 goes into 52 times. All I did was multiply by 4. That's much easier. Think what you want, but that's much easier. Suppose you have 1724800, and you want to divide this by, say, 50. Now, again, I'm not going to do it this time, but you can do the division if you like. You can even cancel off 1 0. So you're dividing by 5 now. Me, that's too hard. I'm going to multiply by 2. 50 times 2 is 100. And again, you should just know that. So multiplying by 2 is the whole trick. 16, 9, 4, 14, 3. So it's 344, 96, 000. And we're dividing by 100. And 100 happens to have 2 zeros. So I'm going to happen to move the decimal 2 places to the right, and I get 344,960. The 0.00 you don't have to say. And fair enough, if you wanted to cross off 0 for 0 and then say, well, that's the answer. Well, that's the answer because now you're dividing by 1. But that's also valid. No complaints. If you have 73842 and you want to divide this by 5. And it's not the worst problem. You can do this by hand. 5 goes into 7 one time with 2 left over. 5 into 23 goes 4 times with 3 left over. 5 into 38 is 7 times with 3 left over. 5 into 35 is 6 with the 4 left over. So we're going to have a decimal, at least one. 5 into 42 goes 8 times with 2 left over. And 5 into 20 goes 4 times. Okay? Me, I would multiply by 1 as 2 over 2. So the bottom's 10. 7, 3, 8, 4, 2. Rather than doing this painful division, I'm going to multiply by 2. You know what? If you don't even like multiplying by 2, you can add the number to itself 2 times. 4, 8, 16, 7, 14. 4, 8, 16, 7, 14. So I get 147,684 divided by 10. Move the decimal over 1 place. Now you're dividing 14768.4 by 1. Dividing by 1.0, but that's 1. There's your answer. Okay, I'd rather do this or do that any day of the week than do this. Okay, that was much easier to just multiply by 2. You're going to have to know your 5 table really well to do it as quickly as I did. But multiplying by 2, most people know their 2 times table. Division is always harder than multiplication. I had to know how many times 5 went into 7 and what was left over, and how many times 5 went into 23 and what was left over, and how many times 5 went into 35, how much was left over, 5 into 34 and how much is left over, 5 into 42, how much is left over, and then 5 into 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 divisions. 6 divisions versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me say this a little bit differently. 6 divisions by 5 versus 5 multiplications by 2. 6 divisions by 5 versus 5 multiplications by 2. Come on, this is easier. And you should know that 5 times 2 gives you one of those special numbers. Any number can have any number of zeros and a 1. The 1 can be at the beginning or at the end. If it's at the end, you'll usually have a decimal place. Because if you did have this number, that is 1. Okay. Now, let me show you a couple of other situations you can come up against. Suppose you're asked to do 375 divided by 15. Now, 15 times no number that I'm familiar with will give you a 1 or a 10 or 100 or 1,000, things like that. But you know what? If I multiply the bottom by 2, I get a single-digit number. Why? Because I can move the decimal over. And I multiply the top by 2, I get 750. Now, once we got 750 over 30, you can say, you know what? This is just 75 divided by 3. Or you can say that the decimals are here and here, and I'm going to move them over 1 place. So now I have to do 75 over 3. I'd rather do a single-digit number into 75. 2 times, 1 left over 5. The answer is 25. Then do 15 into 375. The 375 became smaller. The 15, which is a 2-digit number, became a single-digit number. Which division would you want to do? And all I did was multiply by 2. 14 and 1 is 15. 6 and 1 is 7. That's how I got the 750. So you can convert dividing by two-digit numbers into dividing by your single-digit number if you move the decimal around. Okay. Now, let's try another concept. Suppose you have 128. You have 128. You want to divide this by 8. Now, once again, there's no number that I know how to, there's no number I can think of that when I multiply by 8 gives me a power of 10. That is 1, 10, 100,000, 10,000, etc. But what I can do is, I know that I can see that 4 goes into those two numbers. Instead of dividing by 8, I'll divide by 4 times 2. 4 goes into 128, 30, 2 times. And I divide that by 2. You should know how many times 2 goes into 32. Goes in 6 times. And if you didn't, you do the division. 2 into 3 goes 1 time with 1 left over. 2 into 12 is 6. It's a bit more than doing this. 1, 4, 6. Not much. This is just a little bit more. But what I'm really getting at is you can do this in your head. 4 into 128 goes into the 12 3 times. It goes into the 8 2 times. So now you dealt with the 4. Now divide the result by 2. What's that divided by 2? And I do this all the time. I do not know what 128 divided by 8 is. I really, really don't. But I'll divide by 4 times 2. I'll get 32 over 2, 16. And I can do that pretty quickly. Quick enough where you would think I knew what 128 divided by 8 is. But then again, that's me. Okay, you can do these in your head. If you liked, you could have thought of 8 as 2 times 2 times 2. Well, 2 goes into 12 6 times. 2 goes into 8 4 times. So now you have 2 times 2. I already divided by that 2. Again, 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 4 2 times. Divide by the last 2, 16. Need to understand that if the number's in the numerator, and when it comes, you could think of the first 2 digits as 1 digit. 4 goes into that number. 4 goes into 12. 4 goes into 2. Okay, you have 147. 7 goes into 14 2 times. 7 goes into 7 1 time. You can just read off the answer. So if somebody asked me what 147 times 14 is, well, to be honest, I would think of that as 140 plus 7, both over 14. This is 10. 7 over 14 is a half. So yeah. I would just say 10 and a half. But what am I getting at? 147 divided by 14, you can think of the 14 as 7 times 2. Because those are multiples of 7. 7 goes in there 21 times. Divided by 2, you get 10 and a half. So I can do that division in my head using this method. But again, I would think of this as 140 plus 7 over 14. That division is 10. 7 over 14 is a half. You get 10 and a half. So there's many different ways of thinking about how to do division. The last thing you want to do when you're asked to divide two numbers, the last thing you really want to do, sometimes it's not bad, but you really want to try not to do long division. This one isn't bad. 14 goes into 14 one time. You subtract, you get 0, bring down to 7. 14 goes into 7 0 times. 14 times 0 is 0. Subtract, get 7. Bring down a 0. And bring up the decimal. Hopefully you know that 14 times 5 is 70. Okay. Now, one last type. 125 times 8, if you bother to work it out, is 1,000. So now you can divide numbers by 125. If you have 5125 divided by 125, I would, instead of dividing by a 3-digit number, I'd multiply by 8. Because I know the bottom is 1,000. So now the whole problem is just multiplying this by 8. And you should get, I guess, 41,000. 40, 20, 8, 10, 41,000. So you get 41,000. Now, you have two choices at this point. You can cross off 0 for 0, and you get 41 over 1, which is 41. Or you have the 41,000 over 1,000, and you move the decimal to the left 3 places. So then you'll be dividing by 1. And 41.000 over 1.00, well, that's 41 over 1, which is 41. Okay, it was much easier to multiply by 8, especially since the zeros just canceled out and you're left with 41 over 1. Who wants to do 125 into 5,125? Who wants to do that? 125 doesn't go into 5 even one time. It doesn't go into 51 even one time. But it goes into 512. 4 times 512 is 500. You subtract, you get 125. And 125 goes into 125 one time. Okay, you can either do this, which wasn't the worst, or you can do this. There's no doubt in my mind that 90% of the times multiplying by 8 will be easier than dividing by 125. Okay, did you really know that 125 times 4 was 500? And that 125 times 5 was more than 512? Probably not. But I bet you knew what 8 times 5 was, and what 8 times 2 plus 4 was, and what 8 times 1 times 2 is, and what 8 times 5 plus 1 is. It's much easier to do division by 125 that way. If you have, we'll do 2 more. If you have 3, 2, 1, 4, 2, and you want to divide by 125. So you multiply the top and bottom by 8 because that gives you pretty much a 1 to divide by. So you take 3, 2, 1, 4, 2. You multiply it by 8, 16, 33, 11, 17, 25. So you have 257,136. And then move the decimals 3 places, move the decimals 3 places. You get 257.136 divided by 1, because this number is now 1. The rule for dividing by 1 is don't bother. There's your answer. Okay, the only way that's wrong is if I made a silly mistake in my multiplication. But trust me, yes, I make mistakes in multiplication. Probably more than you do. But I guarantee you, I make more mistakes doing division with 3-digit numbers than I do by multiplying by a single-digit number. Let us try one more. Suppose you were given 36.431 over 125. So, you should walk around knowing that 125 times 8 is 1,000. It really makes your life easier. Now, if you put a 1 here, then you're multiplying this number by 1/8, and whatever you get will not equal to 36.431 divided by 125. This number here is equal to itself times 1. This has to be 1. And 1/8 does not equal 1. 8 over 8 equals 1. Well, why 8 over 8? Why not 4 over 4? That also equals 1. Simple. 125 times 8 gives you 1 with zeros. So basically, I take this number on the numerator, I multiply it by 8. 8, 24, 34, 50, 29. And I move the decimal in 3 places. 290.448 divided by 1,000. The decimals here and here. I move this decimal 3 places to the left. So now I'm dividing by 1. But before I forget, I have to move that decimal 3 places to the left. And the rule for dividing by 1 is don't bother. So it turns out that this is equal to this. And you can do the long division to check it. 36431. 125 times 2 is 250. That leaves 114. Bring down this 3. Multiply by 9. That gives you 900. Gives you 1125. 9 times that number is 1125. That gives you 18 left over. Bring down the 1. It goes in 250. 114. Bring down this 3. What is 9 times 125? It's 9 times 100 plus 9 times 25, which is 220. Oh, 225. Yeah, so it's 1125. That leaves 18 left over. Bring down the 1. Okay, apparently I have some mistake up here. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24 carried to 2. 8 times 4 is 32 plus 2 more is 34 carried to 3. 8 times 6 is 48. So let me just get rid of this, please. 8 times 6 is 48 plus 3 more is 51. There's the 5. 8 times 3 is 24 plus 5 is 29. Okay, I thought I was off by much more, but the bottom line is this should be 291. 291. So it's 291. And like I said, there should be a 1 here. We take away 125. We have 56 left over. Bring down the 0. It goes 4 times. That's 500. Have 60. Bring down another 0. And it goes 4 times. That's another 500. Now we have 100 left over. Bring down a 0. And we should be experts on this. 125 goes into 1,000 8 times. And we get the answer. Fair enough. I didn't make a mistake here. But I did make a mistake here. Okay? But come on. You'll make less mistakes with multiplication by 8 than you will with division by 125. This time, it backfired on me. But overall, I'd rather multiply by 8 and then move decimals than divide by 125. Okay, you be careful. You don't make a silly mistake like I did, and there won't be a problem. This method is quicker. And regardless of what happened here, there's less room for mistakes. Multiplying by 8, multiplying by a single digit number is gonna be easier than multiplying by or dividing by a 3-digit number. This completes the section on shortcuts in long division.